The first notification arrived at 2:13 a.m. A silent vibration on the encrypted phone I kept beside the bed. Motion detected. Safe House 3. For a moment, I stared at the screen without moving. The room around me was perfectly still. My wife sleeping beside me, her breathing slow, peaceful, innocent. Safe House 3 was supposed to be empty. No one had access except two people, me and her. I slid out of bed without waking her and stepped into the hallway. The floorboards were cold. My pulse wasn't. Another vibration. Camera feed ready. I opened the stream. The video loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, until the room formed like a memory returning from the dead. The living room of the safe house. The leather couch. The low yellow lamp. And two figures. One of them was my wife. She stood near the table, pouring wine into two glasses like she owned the place. The second man stepped into the frame a second later. I felt my jaw tighten. Even through the grainy feed, I recognized him instantly. Daniel Mercer, my former field partner, the man whose career collapsed 3 years ago, after a classified operation went sideways, disgraced, blacklisted, dangerous, and apparently drinking my wine. He leaned closer to her. Too close. My wife laughed. A quiet laugh I hadn't heard in months. Then he kissed her. Not cautiously. Comfortably. Like a routine. I watched the screen in silence. No shouting. No anger. Just a slow tightening inside my chest. Because the camera didn't lie, and neither did the way she touched his face. This wasn't a mistake. This was familiarity. This was practice. And the worst part? Safe House 3 had surveillance I installed myself, which meant something else was happening there too. Something far more dangerous than betrayal. I kept watching, because sometimes the truth needs time to finish speaking. For 3 years, I had believed Daniel Mercer hated me. After the Prague incident, he lost everything. Clearance, rank, reputation. I was the one who survived the investigation. He called me lucky. Others called me clean. But men like Mercer don't forgive quietly. And now he was sitting in a house only my wife knew about. That wasn't coincidence. That was access. I watched the feed again the next morning while drinking coffee. She had already left the bedroom. Said she was going to yoga. Mercer poured more wine in the footage. They sat close. Too close. Their conversation was quiet, but the microphones caught enough. Is he suspicious? Mercer asked. My wife shook her head. No, he trusts me. A strange sentence. Trust. I let it sit in my mind like poison dissolving slowly. Mercer placed a small black device on the table. A drive, data extraction grade, military. My stomach didn't drop. It hardened. My wife leaned closer. When do we move? She asked. Move! Mercer smiled. Once we have his archive. Archive. That word mattered. Because I kept operational records encrypted. Intelligence reports stored offline. Information that could destroy careers. Governments. Alliances. Secrets worth millions. Maybe more. My wife reached across the table and touched his hand. I deserve half, she said softly. Half. The camera captured Mercer laughing quietly. You'll get more than that once he's finished. Finished. Interesting choice of word. For several seconds, the room stayed silent. Then Mercer kissed her again. Longer this time, and she didn't pull away. I turned the screen off. Not because I couldn't watch. Because I had seen enough to understand. This wasn't just an affair. This was infiltration. And the person who opened the door was sleeping in my bed. I didn't confront her. That would have been emotional. Emotion ruined strategy. Instead, I made breakfast. Eggs. Coffee. Toast. When she came into the kitchen, she smiled like always. Morning? Her voice carried warmth. The kind built from years of shared life. Years that now felt rehearsed. Morning, I said. I watched her carefully while she ate. Every movement. Every glance. There were signs I had missed before. The late yoga sessions. The sudden interest in my office security. The questions about old field files. All small. All forgettable. Until now. That afternoon I visited the safe house. Mercer and my wife were long gone. But the cameras had already given me what I needed. Fingerprints. Device IDs. Audio logs. And the most useful thing of all, their plan. They believed my archive was stored in my home office. They were wrong. But I decided not to correct them. Instead, I created a copy. A beautiful copy. Encrypted files. Intelligence reports. Everything they expected to steal. except every document contained a hidden tracer protocol. Once opened, location ping, permanent exposure, not just to me, to international intelligence networks. Mercer would become radioactive, and anyone tied to him would burn. That evening, my wife came home late. She kissed my cheek casually. "How was your day?" "Productive," I said. She didn't notice the small black drive sitting openly on my desk. Exactly where Mercer expected it to be. People blinded by greed rarely look twice. They simply reach and wait for the trap to close. I opened the camera feed again. Mercer sat at the table with a laptop. My wife beside him. The drive connected, files opening. His smile growing wider. "Jackpot," he whispered. My wife exhaled in relief. "We're rich." For several seconds, they celebrated quietly. Then Mercer opened the final document. The tracer. The laptop screen froze. His smile vanished. "What the?" Then the message appeared. "Trace protocol activate." Mercer's face turned pale. My wife leaned closer. "What happened?" He didn't answer. Because every intelligence server connected to my security network had just received their location. Mercer slammed the laptop shut. Too late. I stepped through the safe house door slowly. Neither of them heard me at first. Until I spoke. "You should have asked for the password." They turned. The shock in my wife's eyes was almost artistic. Mercer stood abruptly. "You set this up?" "Yes." My voice stayed calm. My wife looked between us, breathing fast. "You knew?" "From the first night." Silence filled the room like pressure before a storm. Mercer's hands trembled. My wife didn't speak. She only stared at me, like a stranger, which was fitting. Because strangers steal. And tonight, they had stolen from the wrong man. 3 nights later, the drive disappeared. I didn't react. I simply waited. At 1:42 a.m., the first alert arrived. File access confirmed. Location detected. Safe House 3. Of course. Mercer was the first to move. "Turn it off," he said quietly. "You don't want this going public." I almost smiled. Public wasn't the problem. International intelligence agencies were. "You accessed classified materials," I said calmly. "That's espionage." My wife stepped forward. "Please, listen." I held up a hand. Not angry. "Just finished." "You said I trusted you," I told her. Her lips trembled. "That was the only honest thing you told him." Mercer stared at the laptop like it might explode. "They'll destroy us," he whispered. "Yes," I said. I placed a folder on the table. Inside were photographs, their meetings, their messages. Bank transfers Mercer arranged. My wife looked at the pictures like they were weapons. Because they were. "You ruined my life," Mercer said. "No," I corrected. "You did that 3 years ago." Then I looked at my wife. Really looked. The woman I had shared a home with. Dreams. History. And suddenly she felt very small. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now?" I picked up the drive. "You disappear from my life." Outside, distant sirens were already growing louder. Mercer closed his eyes. My wife started crying. I walked to the door. And didn't look back. Some betrayals shatter you. Others clarify things. Weeks later, I sat alone on the terrace of my villa in Switzerland. Snow falling slowly across the lake. Quiet. Clean. My phone buzzed repeatedly. 71 missed calls. All from the same number. My daughter-in-law. Earlier that week, she had called me laughing. "If you want to join Thanksgiving, come wash the dishes." I had simply replied, "Enjoy." Now she had seen the photos online. The villa. The mountains. The life I chose after cutting everyone off. Greed makes people desperate. Desperation makes them loud. But silence? Silence is power. I turned the phone off. Across the lake, the world looked distant. Small. Like the life I left behind. And the truth was simple. They didn't lose me. They lost access to me. Which in the end was worth far more